can see better than those who have perfect sight. Have you ever been in a place that was so dark that you could almost feel it? Even with your hand right in front of your face, you couldn't see it. That was my world. It was a world of darkness. I remember from childhood, I remember hearing my mom sing to me. Oh, she has such a sweet voice. But I never got to see the color of her hair. I never looked deep into her eyes. The only way that I knew what she looked like was by tracing the features of her face with my fingers. You see, I was born blind. My dad's name was Bartimaeus, and so they called me the blind son of Timaeus, blind Bartimaeus. Childhood was difficult for me. My mom was so patient as she would try to teach me, and I would fumble around, and she was trying to teach me over it. Even simple things I made such a mess of. The kids in the neighborhood quickly learned that I was different from them. And they took delight in playing jokes on me, on the blind person, blind Bartimaeus. The more they played jokes, often the jokes became hurtful. Self-pity and bitterness began growing in my heart, plunging me into even deeper darkness. But there were some bright spots in my childhood. One of my favorite things was to be able to go to Sabbath school, down to the synagogue, and the rabbi there, he was such a patient guy. He was an older priest, and he would take time with us, and especially with me, because he knew that I struggled, and so he wanted to get me ready for my bar mitzvah. His favorite topic of all, though, had to be talking to us about the Messiah. The Messiah, he would say, although he usually didn't use the term Messiah, he preferred to call him the Son of David. Because he said, just like David, our great king, delivered his people and gave us a great nation, so there's going to come the Son of David, and he's going to deliver us and give us a great nation again. Oh, the Son of David was dear to his heart, and so he would read those scriptures to us over and over again that talked about the Messiah, the Son of David. One day, as he was reading, he had the prophet Isaiah's scroll. And he was reading along, and he read a verse that grabbed my attention. And I couldn't help myself. I blurted out and interrupted him, because this is what the verse said. Those who walk in darkness have seen a great light. And he read that verse, and something sprang up in my heart. What did he say? Those who walk in darkness. I'm in darkness. Those who walk in darkness. And so I interrupted him. I said, Rabbi, what do you mean? How can people who are in darkness see? Oh, my child, he replied. The God who can speak the world into existence. The God who can part the Red Sea so that our fathers go through on dry ground. That God is well able to do this. He doesn't call us to understand. He calls us to believe. So the rabbi said, believe, my child, and you will see. Oh, I clung that promise to my heart. I memorized that verse, and I would often find myself going back to it and thinking about what it would mean if it actually came true for me. Those who walk in darkness will see a great light. Those who walk in darkness will see a great light. If you believe, you will see. As I got older and had to make a living for myself, there was just about only one way that I could earn anything. I couldn't work, really. And so I would go into town and find a place by the side of the road and sit there as people came by, and I would call out and ask if they would help me. I never got very much money, but normally enough to make do. Oh, but what I got plenty of was news. Sitting there listening to the different people coming by and telling their stories and telling what was going on in the world and in the city. I heard all kinds of news. Well, one day I began hearing stories about a new rabbi. I began hearing stories that a new rabbi was going, and great crowds of people were coming to hear him wherever he went. This rabbi, they said, was different from any other rabbi that had ever come. This rabbi taught, but he taught with great compassion, with great love. This rabbi, he loved so much that he would help those who were hurting. In fact, he not only taught and he not only helped, he even healed some of them. There was one story that I heard about a guy who could not walk. And this rabbi made it where he was able to walk. There was another story about a father who had a son that was demon-possessed, and this rabbi cast the demon out of him. Oh, but the story that I liked the best, I heard the story one day of how this rabbi, a blind man came to him, and this rabbi made it where he was able to see. A blind man, imagine that, a blind man, somebody walking in darkness, able to see. Oh, those stories just stirred in my heart. As I heard them, I kept going back to what my rabbi told me as a young child about this Messiah, about this deliverer, about this son of David. Could this be? Could this be? Could this be him? And the more stories I heard, the more convinced I became in my heart. Yes, this is the Messiah. This is the Son of David. And with that conviction, a longing began to grow in my heart. I want to see him. I want to see him. Me, a blind beggar, I want to see him. One day, as I sat down by the side of the road, I could tell there was excitement in the air. I perked up my ears and listened, and soon I heard that Jesus was coming into town, and I could tell by the crowd and the reaction around that great numbers were gathering around. I could tell that he was getting closer and closer and closer. And I'm thinking, this is my chance. This is my chance. This is my chance. So I started hollering. I said, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. The crowd around me was getting louder and louder. So the louder they got, the louder I got. Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And soon the crowd around me began hollering at me. Be quiet, be quiet. We want to hear Jesus. We don't want to hear you. Quit interrupting him. But oh no, they were not going to stop my crying. Once again, I almost shouted out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. The crowd was still hollering at me. But now they were saying something different to me. They said, Bartimaeus, he's calling for you. Oh, they didn't have to say that twice. As much as I could, I got up from where I was sitting on the side of the road, and I made my way over to where Jesus was, and I fell on my face before him. What do you want, my child? I blurted out that I can see. According to your faith, so be it. Whew. Suddenly, my world was filled with light. I looked up, and for the first time I saw, and I was looking into the face of Jesus. Oh, that conviction that had been growing in my heart. Suddenly I knew this is the Son of David. This is the Messiah. This is the light of the world. But sometimes a blind person can see better than those who have perfect sight. Jesus left our village and made his way on down to Jerusalem, and I began hearing stories about when he got down to Jerusalem about some of the things that happened. The religious leaders down there began to persecute him. This one who brought hope into the world, they rejected. He brought love, and they responded to him with hate. He brought peace, and in anger, they shouted at him. He brought joy, and they rejected it all. They beat him, and they crucified him. And hanging on the cross, he cried out, "Father, forgive them, for they don't understand what they're doing." Could they not see? Could they not see that this was the Messiah? That this is the Son of David? Could they not see? He died. And the world was plunged into darkness. But I began to hear other stories very soon. I began to hear people telling stories about he's alive. Yes, he died, but he came back to life. He's alive. Sure, my first response was to question, how could that be? But then I had to stop and say, but wait a minute, I'm a blind man that can see. And the words of my rabbi would come back to me. The God who can speak this world into existence. The God who can part the Red Sea so that our fathers could travel across on dry ground. The God who can do that can even do this. He doesn't call you to understand. He calls you to believe. Believe, and you will see. And so, I became convinced that yes, though I could not understand it, that one truly was the Messiah, the Son of David, the light of the world. And I started wanting to tell everybody that I met, light has come. Light has come. You don't have to remain in your darkness. You can come to the light. Will you come? And I began telling them, light has come. Will you share that light with others who are in darkness? If a blind man can see, so can you. Will you?